Recording. Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of our Tee to Green Extra. Brian Koziol with you here and joined by one of the new members of our Tee to Green team this year, Nate Geary. Nate, we're excited to have you on board. I know we've given you a couple of official introductions, but this is our first Tee to Green Extra Zoom production. So let's welcome you into this format for our viewers and listeners here.
My first on-site assignment, essentially, is the Zoom. Well, considering everything going on, this is a unique first assignment. But hey, we're adapting the way we can.
Absolutely, yes. Of course, if you're watching this, we are broadcasting remotely from our homes safely, as we should be, and we hope everybody's safe and healthy wherever you're listening or watching to us here. Nate and I have been. Not that you would know, the listener, but we have been known to exchange quite a few texts about golf, about whatever is passionately on our mind. We thought, why not record a few of these ideas here for everybody to share in? If you're a golfer like we are here in Western New York, we know it has been a struggle to play due to some of the state restrictions, which is understandable. But also, even now with golf courses starting to open up back up again, Nate, there's a little thing called like white precipitation on the ground here, which is hampering our efforts.
Accumulation, a word you don't want to be using in April. And yeah, I mean, there was a couple, I saw a picture of Brookfield Country Club in Clarence posted a picture, just put in the fertilizer, just put down like the summer growth stuff, and there's an inch of snow, like fully covering the course. Tough. But yeah, and what I think makes it a worse gut punch is I remember pretty vividly a day in March, getting an opportunity to get out during the day, and it was 60 degrees. And I really thought to myself, wow, what a beautiful spring we're on tap for, considering how wet in just miserable 2019's April was. And this one's following suit. Mike Harrington of Buffalo News made tweeted out yesterday, April is quickly becoming the worst month in the 716. And I think the last few years, especially for anybody that wants to get out and golf, even not for golfers, for the people that just want to go to Chestnut Ridge, want to go to Erie County Park and hike. It's tough when, the creeks are flowing high. It's tough for golf courses with low areas on their golf courses, because you're getting tons of buildup of water. Like last year, the town of Hamburg course, 18 Mile Creek, they had a ton of problems in April that really caused them to delay the opening of the course. And hopefully we were anyways looking at a lot of courses that were opening early in March that were just in unbelievable condition. I know Briarwood was just in absolutely phenomenal shape considering March, just because it was so mild this winter. And now we're kind of losing track with a crappy April. I'm not thrilled, that's for sure.
I thought with how bad the last few springs have been that maybe we were owed a good one here, and March got off to a great start.
It sure did.
You mentioned Briarwood, one of our Tee to Green home clubs. I play at Tantera, another one of our Tee to Green home clubs, and the few rounds that I got into March, the course was in great shape. It's a flatter course there, as you mentioned, so lower lying spots, like, we know that it can be rough at times here with the weather, but the temperature, even on dry days in between, the temperatures have not really been up for going out to play.
No.
I'm pretty much willing to play in a lot of weather, but it's really hard to swing a golf club when you have to put on like 4 layers. I mean, to be flexible and do everything you need to do with the swing, it's not as fun. So let's hope we get some warm weather here soon, because I know we're itching to get out. People, especially now, you're cooped up in your home, as you should be. Going to a golf course can be a nice, safe recreation to get out and play. And I'll say what I've been saying on all of our shows, as we all have. If you're going to go to a golf course to play, please, please, please follow the rules and restrictions that are in place, because we know why it was shut down the previous time.
All it takes is one.
Is that people were not following the rules. And we're hoping that maybe we kind of got a second chance here. So maybe, we don't know. Is this going to be a few more weeks, a few more months? We all don't know. So for all of us that love to golf, which is including, Nate and myself here, if you go to a course to play, please don't be the guy that ruins it for everybody.
And let this become a time that maybe gets you enjoying going out and walking more. I know I just purchased yesterday a push cart because I know I need one. And, at the end of the day, this summer, I've got plans when I want to get out early before work. I want to be able to walk 9 holes in the morning. And I think part of this thing, if you want to take something positive out of it, is, hey, maybe, this spring I'll get more walking rounds in than I would have otherwise. And it's not like you've got anything else going on, and you might as well get a good exercise. I know that has been one of the things that I think the weather has really depressed me the most about, is even there's just this level of, I just want to be able to one day to this week walk out my door, be able to walk outside without having to put 3 layers on just to walk down the block to get a brisk exercise. So I'm looking forward to that element of getting back and using the push cart and getting out there and walking a little. It's this time of year can be just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple things here that Nate and I are going to talk about on our Tee to Green Extra, but I want to get to something that I know you and I exchanged quite a bit of thoughts about while we were watching it. When it was Masters Week a week ago, when we were supposed to have it, the replay of the broadcasts throughout the week on ESPN and then on CBS on the weekends were just tremendous, especially on the weekends. That Saturday rebroadcast when Mickelson was with Jim Nantz, and then on Sunday when Woods was with Nantz, to hear their perspective on those rounds and on those victories, I thought was great. We never get to, yes, they do like post-round interviews, and we all hear post-game interviews from any sport, but to be able to go back and actually watch it and have them kind of dissect and analyze how it all played out, I thought was super cool. And even though I've seen the Tiger highlight on 18 on the final hole a whole bunch of times, it's incredible that I still kind of got goosebumpy feeling watching it again and again there as we watched it last week.
Yeah, and I'll give them this. I thought the Phil interview aspect of it was maybe the highlight of the 2 shows. Phil really, just was giving unbelievable insight, I thought. And I thought it was really awesome to kind of listen to his thoughts on each shot, listen to their thought process. And even so much, too, with Tiger talking about, hey, we're thinking about 15 other things than the shot on hand. And sometimes, when you're watching on TV and you realize that these guys are coming down to the last 2, 3, 4 holes, they need to understand, okay, what are the guys on top of the leaderboard doing around me? Not only that, but hey, just everything that goes into it. And I love getting that insight from Phil. And I thought Phil really did a nice job of creating a really great experience, considering we were kind of stripped of golf that weekend. And then obviously reliving the 2019 Masters 4th round was just, I think, something that a lot of times I don't know we would have ever gotten to fully reappreciate again. A year later, here we are getting a full opportunity to just appreciate. I mean, I watched that from start to finish. I watched his, I watched all 18 holes. I watched afterwards. I thought it was awesome to get that feel on Sunday with everything going on and get an opportunity to sort of relive that, because that was something I think that last year really brought a lot more people back to the game. And I know right around this time is when, okay, you watch the Masters, and if you get a good storyline, typically your first thought is, okay, let's get back on the course. Now you just sort of get the fire burning, especially in Western New York, where the season really kind of revolves around, okay, the Masters are here, well, golf season's here. You know what I mean? So I think with the Northeast and Western New York in particular, Masters time means this is when golf season becomes in full swing. So I know for me that it was nice to get that inside view, but I am really looking forward to having the opportunity to watch some fall golf this year. And when they've rescheduled the Masters and the U.S. Open for later in the fall, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. What Mickelson was able to retain from 2004. I mean, we're talking 15 years ago. How many rounds of golf has he played in between the 2004 Masters and today? And
thousands.
How he's able to,
thousands.
He's like, well, I knew the wind from what I could see from above the trees on hole 12 was doing this. So on my approach on 11, it was just like insane. And Tiger did a little bit of that too. And, maybe easier for him. It was just last year. But to just show, again, another thing that separates even the scratch golfers from the PGA Tour players, how Tiger's sitting on the 11th fairway, getting ready to hit his approach. He said while he was waiting, he was watching Koepka hit his shot on the par 3, the famous 12th there at Augusta,
Mm-hmm.
and he came up short. And he, he's telling Jim Nantz, I knew Koepka would hit 9-iron there, and I saw he came up short. And so he's processing what Koepka's doing and how he came up short on the hole ahead. Meanwhile, he's about to have to hit his approach into a very tough green on 11.
Right.
Then he gets up to 12 on the tee, and he says he watches Fran, as he said, Francesco Molinari, hit an 8 short into the water, which ultimately was kind of the downspell for Molinari.
Yep,
so
that was the hole.
Yeah, so he's taking all this in to ultimately say, yes, it reaffirmed my decision of what my club and what my choice was going to be in terms of how I approached the 12th. And the 12th ultimately, as you said, might have decided the tournament, because Koepka and Molinari both implode on that hole, and Tiger ends up playing it safely. And in the end, he ends up winning by 1 over Koepka. I mean, that's a historical spot where that tournament changed. We've seen that happen before, where Spieth had that implodement on that hole, where Danny Willett slides in and wins. But to see Tiger's thought process through all that, I mean, it shows what the tour, I mean, how often would you be on a course playing a hole and you're looking over at somebody else's? Now, again, you might not know what club, but I mean, all the factors that are going into this that he's doing on a Sunday at a tournament, it just shows you how good, not only what Tiger's level is, but a lot of these tour players are at that level to be able to do that.
Yeah, and that sort of 11, 12, 13 run was the real momentum, because I remember very vividly at number 8, and I'm thinking to myself, Francesco's going to run away with this. And it just felt like if Tiger didn't do something really quickly and dramatically, that was over. And I remember as I rewatched and tweeted, I remember being at this point thinking, you know what, this was really fun. Like, this was fun. I appreciate the 3 1/4 days that we got of really but Francesco's just going to run away with this. And then
that was his MO. He didn't make mistakes.
No. And then he hits that tree limb on 11.
Yeah.
And on his chip shot and on his approach to the green. And I thought right there, I saw the first crack in the armor was him hitting that branch, falling short of and then having to bogey that hole. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, that was the first real crack in the foundation. And then 12 really unraveled it. And from there, Francesco never really got back to and at that point, I mean, Tiger had just created so much momentum. And then obviously him and Brooks towards the end. It was a fantastic tournament from a competition standpoint, from a name standpoint. Having Brooks Koepka at the end of that tournament, as we know, just that season before, the lead up to that Masters run. I mean, Brooks was arguably the hottest player in the world. I mean, just ranking in the top 4 or 5 in every major, winning majors, and was really sort of planning as, is Brooks the best player in the world at that point? And there was really, think about it, is there anybody better that you would have rather Tiger be going up against at that point in the Masters than Brooks Koepka, the largest name essentially in golf at the time? We all know Rory, but at that point it was really Brooks, and he sort of just went there. It was old versus new, and what a storyline it was at the end of the day.
I still think if Koepka is healthy, and we know this year he started off battling injuries, I still think Koepka, if healthy, is still the guy to beat going into an average week of just going into a tournament if he's got his best game. Now, are there certain courses where maybe you might say, well, this favors this guy a little more? But I just think if you're giving me the board of the season and you're telling me Koepka's 100% healthy, I still think right now he would be the guy that I would pick more than often than not to come away on top. He seems like he's got such a good mentality. I love how too he's taken away some trends about, well, you have to practice 72 hours a day, or you got to hit balls before your round, after your round. Like, he's basically gone out and he's kind of done it his own way.
Yeah.
Which is refreshing too. And sometimes he says things that, old school golf guys don't like to hear, but a lot of times figuring out that there's different ways to do it, I think, is refreshing to hear too.
Yeah. And I'll say too, you think about in the opposite of that, right? Like some of these players that have shown that glimpse and then have fallen back into sort of the peanut gallery. Jordan Spieth is the guy I think everyone thinks of as, wow, he showed a glimpse of being maybe, one of the best ever. Was he going to be the next Tiger based on his age when he came in and really started dominating the game? You're like, yeah, not only that, I mean, this guy wins without hitting the long ball. And then he just has gone back and he's sort of caught up with the rest of the pack. And I think Brooks is that one guy. I think, you know, we've sort of been waiting for Rory's era of dominance. Like he's had, you know, short little spurts here and there, but we haven't seen an era be dominated like we've seen with Tiger. And I think with Brooks, I think there is that still that capability that, you know, when this thing's all over with, was this the break that Brooks needed to get healthy? We keep talking about Tiger. Was this ideal for Tiger? Because we know we had that locking up of the back and wasn't going to play in Memorial. Then was he going to play in the Masters? He wanted to. And now we're saying, well, the Masters getting moved later in the year maybe plays right into Tiger's hands. But how about Brooks coming back from injury too? Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that ends up playing out.
It definitely benefits the two of them, I think, more than anybody. They both were not healthy. They both were not playing either well or not playing at all because of injuries. So I think, you know, for those two, and that's great because those two are two names that drive the sport, that drive us to watch the sport, to drive us to get excited about the sport. So to have those two guys hopefully healthy when golf returns is something that I think we're all excited about. We'll talk about our own game here in a second, but one more thing here. So essentially, the plan is for the PGA Tour to be the first sport professionally to really come back. You know, if you want to, you know, amongst the big four major sports, of course, the four leagues, and then you've got some of the other major sports that you'd throw in there. Golf probably is in the best position to be able to come back and play, A, without fans, and B, with whatever restrictions or social distancing things have to be implied. I think they're set up nicely. The plan is to start July 8th at Colonial in Texas. And I got to think that a lot of players will be ready to go and get excited because some of them haven't maybe picked up a golf club in months. I know a lot of them sometimes have home facilities they can practice in, but some of these guys I'm sure are going to be chomping at the bit to get out there. Let's hope that travel logistics-wise and we don't get any sort of second wave that happens here with COVID-19, that we actually will see PGA Tour events come early June.
That's the hope, and I think the latter part of your point is the important one. You know, we got to hope that this second wave of this isn't something that might unfortunately upset some of the plans that have been put in place. You know, since the last few weeks since the PGA and USGA have both announced sort of plans to have their respective tournaments move forward. I mean, it would be great if we had something, you know, Thursday to Sunday to pay attention to on live TV. And I know golf would be in a really unique position in terms of TV ratings to be front and center. And I know there's absolutely going to be players that maybe don't participate because they don't want to put themselves in harm's way. I think that's going to likely be a situation where you guys have guys declining to go to tournaments or participate in tournaments out of fear. And I think that's totally fair. And it should totally be left up to the guys that want to opt in and play. I think a majority of them will. As you mentioned, with being able to really play the game from a tournament standpoint with all the CDC regulations in place, I don't think that's a problem at all. Yeah, I'll be interested to see how it all plays out. But the latter point is sort of my main concern is hopefully we're in a position come June where we don't have to sort of recalibrate where we are and redetermine some things at that point.
Yeah. Let's talk about our game. I know that you went on some cool trips. And you went to Vegas and to Texas and kind of played around this year. I got to play a little in Florida in February. So we've been doing our Western New York winter training here a little, but I always love hearing about trips. So I'll let you start here. Tell us about started out with your trip out to Vegas. I know you got to play some pretty cool courses there.
Yeah, so I got out to Vegas in February. And then right from Vegas, I left from Vegas and went to San Antonio. So the basis for my trip originally was I was going to go to San Antonio and play at one of the CBIGG courses. CBIGG owns our two, home courses, Tantera and Briarwood, and several other courses around the country where, essentially you go in and you pay the cart fee and play. And so the basis of my trip was go there. I ended up getting pulled to Vegas the 2 days prior for my full-time work engagement. And I was there on Friday with a whole day before, a whole travel day essentially for me to get from Vegas to Texas. And I was like, hell, I might as well try to get a good round in out here. TPC Vegas was available for a tee time. I hopped on. I mean, the course was unbelievable. The canyon course, I mean, like actual canyon drops of thousands of feet, right in the middle of the fairways and stuff that you're kind of walking around.
Yeah, we don't have a ton of elevation changes.
No.
Especially, I mean, yeah, you can go to the South Towns and maybe, or Southern Tier area and play some with a little, I mean, Holiday Valley, I guess would be
Mm-hmm.
probably people that might have played a course that you think about that. But in general, Western New York courses don't have a ton of elevation change like that. And you got last 2 summers ago, I went to Banff in Canada in Alberta near Calgary,
Mm-hmm.
played a course that had a ton of elevation change. And the starter gave us kind of like a pep talk of, hey, what to expect here. Like, we have everybody that might hit a club anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 different, depending upon the elevation. And I mean, I felt like I was the man on some of these holes. I'm like, yeah, I'm hitting a pitching wedge like 170. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm bringing it here. But I mean, it is something to adjust to. And I'm sure in Vegas you had to deal with that same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And just how, you don't think about the greens being, rock hard in the middle of February, but, there we were. And not only that, I mean, I found myself playing out of sand on, 80% of my first shots. There's just sand everywhere. And where there wasn't sand, there was gravel with rocks. And I mean, you're just constant, and all of it's in play. The fairways are narrow and quick. You can hit a dead down square middle of the fairway and have it roll off into the second or third cut, even if you're in the middle of the fairway. I mean, it was just moving at those types of paces. The course was beautiful. Layout was beautiful. Really enjoyed my time at TPC. Then I went to the club at Santerra, which again is the CBI course. I played 36 holes there as I landed on Saturday. And then we played the Arnold Palmer course in San Antonio. And that was another just beautiful, unbelievable clubhouse, awesome golf experience. I mean, there was hardly anybody on the course. Me and my buddy that went down. I mean, we played 36 holes there. Got around 36 holes in about 5 hours. So we felt like, holy cow, we could play another 18 holes here if we really wanted to, but the course was just in unbelievable shape, and got out there and played, 36, 36 and 18 in 3 days, flew home. And then it was kind of like 2 or 3 weeks later, I felt like I was playing golf here. So it was an awesome transition. And then, since then, like I said, I mean, it's been definitely over 2 weeks since the last time I played, so, and the thing that's upsetting is, I carried some momentum. I had 2 birdies at TPC. I almost holed a par 3 there, and I had 2 great birdie shots. And then at Santerra, I shot 2 low 80 rounds. And, I felt like I was finally working towards, and then here in Buffalo, the last really nice day we had at the end of March, I broke 80 for the first time at Briarwood. And I was like, holy cow, I felt like I'd really pieced everything together. I was hitting my irons really well. And now I feel like, I'm going to go back out and be rusty. And that's, you hate to feel, because I'm myself a very much a rhythm player. There's going to be rounds where I shoot in the high 80s, and there's going to be rounds I shoot in the high 70s. But for me, it's like I really wanted to carry over some of the momentum I was creating in the early spring. But hey, everyone's dealing with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we went on a family vacation in February to Sanibel Island in Florida, and I played a course there called the Dunes, and there is water on every single hole. And it's tight because, of course, in the a lot of the Florida courses, you're going around homes and condos and everything.
Yep.
So definitely target accuracy, golf on hand. A lot of 5 irons off tees and things like that. You want to hit that shot around maybe 200 yards. A lot of these holes weren't that long. They were 360 or something like that. But if you hit it past 220, you were in the water, or something like that. So it was very strategic. It's a round that I feel like is good for me, because sometimes I feel like I don't always think enough on my tee shot. So I need those courses once in a while to kind of remind myself, yes, you should be thinking. It's not always just grab the drive, even though that's the most fun for me, just grab the driver and go. But off tee shots, allowing me to really have to think a little more. I feel like this is one thing this year that I really want to work on my game, is the decision making of what club to use. And being aggressive is something that I feel like is definitely, of course, fun. But I feel like sometimes I want to really, I don't know if saying, well, I'm going to take I don't want to label it like, oh, it's the easy way out. But like, I want to be able to say that, okay, sometimes this is the right time to be aggressive. Sometimes it's the right time to lay up. Sometimes it's the right time to take an iron off the tee, or a hybrid, or a 3-wood, or a driver. Like, I want to be I want to be a thinker out there too. Part of what I love about golf is the strategy behind it. And I think that I want to try to get away from just grab driver and hope it's straight. And then if it's not, then I'll deal with it later. Like there might be certain holes where, yes, maybe a different strategy is the better play. And, I think of even, where you have played it is at Briarwood there. There's a couple par fives where you could definitely take a whole different variety of strategies. But I want to be and even within your round, like, are you feeling your driver or are you not? And if you're not, then maybe the decision should be
bail early. Yeah. And I know for me, and I have this conversation with Jeff Meadis every time we go to the range, and we talk about the strategic part of it. And it's always, he wants me to look at it more from the green to the tee box rather than the tee box to the green. And, thinking about where do you waste the most of your shots? And most of your wasted shots come between 70 yards, 60, 50, because that's a really difficult shot in a majority of greens, especially when you get to the summertime, when everything's rolling. You really want height. You want a higher trajectory on those shots to have a better opportunity to stick on the green. And my thought is, okay, you're at a par 5 and 240 yards to the green. Well, I'm taking my hybrid out and I'm trying to get as close as possible, when that really is not the smart play in that position. It's not to get the ball just because I can hit my hybrid 220 yards and get within 30 yards of the fringe of the green. Yeah. That is not a great third shot for me. Like, I would much rather be at 110 yards and that's the difference between a hybrid club and a 6-iron, or a hybrid club and using a 7-iron, and understanding that, hey, I got guys that I'm playing with. Oh, and I think, Brian, that a lot of it has to do with, hey, I play with a buddy who hits the ball really long, right? I play with buddies who smoke the ball. And in a par 5, number 17 at Briarwood, right? Like that long par 5, you have to come around the tree and then that water, right? I got buddies that are like, hey, I'm hitting driver over the trees and going for my second shot at the green. And I'm like, great. I'm going to hit a 3-wood and carry that first bunker, take my 7-iron out, hit it up, and then lay up with my pitching wedge and try to get a birdie opportunity. And the difference in mindset of there is just, hey, one guy can be aggressive and fly the trees. One guy might be able to, but why, when I know I can make good shots, if I just try to play within myself in that round? And that to me is going back to Jeff's point of always think about from the green back. If you're thinking, okay, if I want to birdie this hole, it's not, okay, what happens after my first shot? It's what do I need to do to get there to give myself the best opportunity to do it? Yeah. And I think once you start to rotate your mindset a little, that you can really start to score better on some of these courses in Western New York.
Yeah, the approach shot in or the chip in or whatever is definitely something that I feel like I have to do a better job at. That yes, proximity matters, and I know that stats will tell you being closer to the pin is better. But on certain greens, depending upon what's around it or how the green is contoured, is a 15-yard chip going to be more challenging for you than a 90-yard full
Listen,
chip?
we've all been there. We've all been there on a 540-yard hole, getting 3/4 of the way there with 2 shots and then spending 4 shots to get within 100 yards. I mean, that is something that happens to all of us. And those are the parts of your game where I think if you can start to eliminate strategically, that's where you can start shaving your score more consistently.
I agree. Well said. And one thing that I know that really, obviously for those that always are looking to improve their strokes, I still need to be more disciplined with this too. When I go to practice, I am on the range and I'm hitting balls and hitting balls. Do you spend the same amount of time on the range as you do on the putting green, chipping and putting? My answer is definitely not.
It's always no. Always
shame on me. I should be. I mean, you don't need to be a statistical wizard to realize that you putt and chip more than you do any other shot in golf.
Yep.
We probably practice it the least, or at least a smaller amount, and everybody should be practicing that more often. I should be spending way more time in the putting green chipping area than I should be on the range. Not saying that you shouldn't practice all of it. Of course you should, but my ratio is probably, like, if I'm going to be honest with myself, maybe 5-1. If I was going to say time spent on the range, hitting driver, hybrid, irons, versus chipping and putting. And I know I need to get that ratio more to be even.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And you think about it, you're pulling your driver out maybe 10% of the time in the round. And maybe at a high course, maybe that's closer to 20 to 25% of your strokes in a round are from a driver. And that's high, I would bet. I bet that's incredibly high, 20%. But you're using your putter 30% of the time. And that you aren't proportionally spending the appropriate time on the clubs you're using the most in your bag. And I'm guilty of it. I struggle the most with my driver, and I spend the most time on it. It almost doesn't make sense. And yet, during a round where you really can start to affect your score from a consistency standpoint is by shaving your putts 5 around, going from averaging 35 putts around to averaging 31, 32 putts around. That's how you do that consistently. And the only way you do that is by practicing those 4 to 6 footers all the time. Those are the ones that we should be spending 25 minutes after every round at the practice screen, just 4 to 6 footers every day, practice, practice, practice. And I think that's really where all of us could do a better job. It's, I know I'm the same way, and finding the time, if you love it enough and you care enough, the extra 20 minutes after a round or even before, I always find after the round is where you can get the most productive work done. Because before a round, you're just warming up. Your mind isn't, in my opinion, in the good place. I think where you want to be practicing and spending the most time on your putter is after 18.
And it's so hard in Western New York. We battle daylight. We battle good weather. Everybody's busy, of course. And, hopefully maybe being at home and all this time, you reflect on your timing of how you handle your life, and that'll allow you more free time to do fun things like golf and other things that you value. But I definitely have come with okay, I'm going to play 9 holes, and then I'm going to go spend, I got 2 hours here. All right, I'm going to go play 9 holes, and then I'm going to spend a half hour at the putting green. Instead, what'll happen is a lot of the time is I'll play 9, you know what, I'll just play 10 and 11, instead, or instead of just being disciplined.
What's the point of the 2 holes? Yeah.
Correct,
what's the point of the 2 holes?
But let's get one more hole in. Instead, I could spend 20 minutes putting after the round.
Right.
Instead.
Yep.
But
and what it comes down to is, and I know this because I feel it for me, is the want to play comes from the want to be better than you were yesterday. And sometimes what we lack or fail to realize is the only way to truly get better tomorrow is by taking a little extra time today, and or using tomorrow, instead of getting out and playing 18, spending an hour at the short game facility at your club or the short game facility at your nearest public course. And there are plenty of places to do it. The resources are available to us. You mentioned the daytime thing, and right now, quite frankly, we're getting till 8:15 sunset. And I know, instead of going out and sloshing around when the conditions are wet, go to some of these courses, or go to Kaz Park and go practice at the practice green, instead of going to go slosh through the standing water at your nearest club. Use the time more effectively.
I agree. All right, Nate, thanks for doing this. I know you're going to do,
yeah, man.
As the weather improves and our access to more golf improves, I know you're going to be doing a lot more features for us here on TV.
Big plans. Big plans for sure.
Let's get the shovels out of the garage. Let's remove the snow.
Please.
Let's get going.
Let's get the lawnmowers out.
Absolutely. All right, Nate. Thanks for checking in, and hope you've enjoyed it. For Nate Geary, I'm Brian Koziol. This has been a Tee to Green Extra. We'll talk to you next time.